Muri yeZimbabwe kusangana kwatiri kuita zvakare ipo pano paZimu News update apo petinoda kupa mafirst hand update anonga ari kuitika muno munyika yeZimbabwe. So kana uri mutsva usabve pano usina kusubscribe, kulike nekushare. So muri yeZimbabwe tine mashoko etiri kutambira pano ari kutaurwa, mashoko ari kubuda muma institution akasiyana siyana. Ari kutaura iwo kuti Dr. Tafumanei dai wambomira kushandiswa na President Emerson Mnangagwa kuti wange vachishandisa mauto kuti wange vachiprotecta President Emerson Mnangagwa mushure mekunge vanhu vari kupesana nemuono wavo wekuchinja bumbiro remutemo kubva pa5 kubva kuti temu yapresident inobva pa5 years kuenda pa10 years, chinova chiri chiratidzo chinoratidza kuti hachisi kudiwa neruzhinji rwenyika yeZimbabwe. So wari kupiwa yambire kutoti ZANU-PF ine mari yekutoti inogona kuzokukandirai imimi panze zvekutoti munogona kusazoonekwa sevanhu zvamuchose makapera kushandiswa, sezvo zvetiri kuona kuti tilisi zvirinane vanhu vakashandiswa pafazi payapayapo wakazouya iwo ana Tafumanei vamageneral, but vanogona kushandiswa izvezvi tiri kuona sort of like muri kuona VP Chiwenga chaiye VP Chiwenga wakashandiswa kuti wange vachibvisa President Robert Mugabe, wakaudzwa naPresident Robert Mugabe wakaramba kuteerera zvawakaudzwa naPresident Robert Mugabe, but tarisai muone nhau wamamirire aita muri yeZimbabwe. So tira kuti tinzwe mashoko ataurwa navaDouglas Ngonzoro vachipindura vanova reloya raPresident Emerson Mnangagwa vanova vari vaPaul Mangwana. Tichizoenda kudzimwe nhau tichikuzivisei kuti zviri kunyatsa kumbofamba sei.
Recently, in an effort to hoodwink the people of Zimbabwe, ZANU-PF, through its information department, held a press conference at which they invited the co-chairperson of COPAC, Honorable Munyaradzi Paul Mangwana, to make certain statements. At that press conference and subsequent interviews, Honorable Mangwana made a number of important statements. The first important statement is that he acknowledged that any extension of term for the president requires a referendum. He was very emphatic about that if it came to extension of term of office for the office of president, then a referendum is required. However, he went on to say that because this amendment provides for an extension which is less than 3 years, an extension of 2 years, then it is not an extension of term. Honorable Mangwana went on to say that the Parliament of Zimbabwe was clothed with unmitigated powers to amend the constitution without necessarily going for referendum. He went on to say that because the amendment, in his view, the amendment did not involve any changes in the Bill of Rights or in the land rights, it did not require a referendum. While Honorable Mangwana was very correct that an extension of term requires a referendum, he was completely wrong about everything else. It is difficult to tell whether Honorable Mangwana was speaking his mind or was simply carrying a party instruction. Of course, the Parliament does not have unfettered discretion to change the Constitution. In terms of Section 117, subsection 2, the Parliament can only amend the Constitution in terms of Section 328. And the Section 328 is the section we all know that it requires certain formalities to amend the Constitution. So he is not right that the Parliament has unlimited power to change the Constitution. They can only change this Constitution in the terms of Section 328. Then on the issue of whether 2 years does constitute an extension of term, Honorable Mangwana was relying on the wording of Section 91, subsection 2. In terms of Section 91, subsection 2 of the Constitution, for purposes of that section, 3 or more years is deemed a full term. In other words, where a person has been given an additional 3 years, they are deemed to have been given an equivalent of 5 years. In other words, they are deemed to have been given a full term. What is important about this section is that a person who has been given 3 years and more is deemed to have been given a full term. It means therefore that a person who has been given less than 3 years has been given an extension of term but not a full term. So in other words, an extension of the length of time from 5 years by an additional 2 years is an extension of term, but does not constitute a full term. Now, for the avoidance of doubt here, what this section says is that 3 years will be construed as a full term, but anything below 3 years is an extension of term, but it is not a full term, but it is an extension nevertheless. So an extension of the Constitution by 3 years is an extension of term. An extension by 2 years is an extension of term. Now, this thing, they both require a referendum. The extension, whether by 2 years or by 3 years. Now, the matter is put beyond doubt by section 328, subsection 1. Section 328, subsection 1 says that the term limit provisions are provisions that limit the length of time. So if it is 5 and then it is made 7, the length of time has been changed. In terms of section 328, subsection 7, it talks of an amendment, the effect of which is to extend the length of time that a person holds office. This means that if you are adding 2 more years to the president's term, you are extending his time in office by those 2 years. It still requires a referendum. To conclude on this point, the office of the president, the term of office of the president can be extended in 2 ways. The first way is by simply adding another term. So if he had 2 terms, it is simply adding a 3rd term. In this regard, 3 years is regarded as a full term. So the president, he would have served 3 terms. But it is also by extending the length of 1 term, which is the case with Amendment 3. The Amendment 3 extends the length of time by 2 years, but it is an extension nevertheless. If we were to take Honorable Mangwana's argument to its logical conclusion, what he means is that 2 years is equal to 0. 2 years is not 0 years. 2 years is 2 years. 2 years represents a movement. The extension represents a movement from 5 to 2. Therefore, it is an extension nevertheless, and it requires referendum. One final fatal argument that Honorable Mangwana in his presentation makes is that this Amendment 3 does not affect the Bill of Rights. And he says because it does not affect the Bill of Rights, it does not require a referendum. He also goes on to say that it does not affect land rights. He is correct in asserting that the amendment does not affect the land rights. But he is wrong to say that it does not affect the Bill of Rights. Section 3, subsection 2 of our constitution provides the founding values, the values upon which Zimbabwe is predicated and found as a nation. One of the values that section 3 talks about is the value of adult universal suffrage. What adult universal suffrage means is that a person who is over the age of 18 has the right to vote. Every Zimbabwean who is over the age of 18 has the right to vote in any election. It is only that right is only limited in Schedule 4 of the Constitution. And Schedule 4 says that you may not exercise the right to vote if you are mentally challenged, or if you were convicted of an offense, an electoral offense, and you are declared to be ineligible as a voter, or of course if you are insolvent. So any Zimbabwean who is not mad, who is not insolvent, and who is not an election criminal has the right to vote, protected by section 3. So if we again go to section 3 itself, you will find that it talks about the authority to govern coming from the people. So the president's authority to govern must come from the people. It doesn't say from parliament, it says from the people. It goes on to say,
muri Zimbabwe ndofunga tiri kuona ndo zviri kuitika, ndo mashoko ari kutaurwa navaDouglas Ng'onzora vari kudai kuita mapress conference kutoti vange vachivhika nhaurwadza 2030 dzetinoona dziri kudai kunetsa. So tiri kuona panapa pakaiswa mbuya nehanda, pakaiswa chiu chambuya nehanda, paya pachiste chiu chambuya nehanda, tiri kuona pakanyorwa nezuro manheru, then pakanzi say no to 2030. ndofunga tiri kuona panapa izuro manheru iyoyo paya pakanyorwa, neapa futi apa pakanyorwa kunzi say no to 2030. ndofunga tiri kuona ndo pakaiswa pachifootbridge chaya chakaiswa mastatue ambuya nehanda. Chinova chiri cho chiratidzo chekuti vanhu ava vanzi vari kutsvagwa but havasi kuonekwa. So tiri kuona panapa there is growing opposition to the proposed constitution amendment bill number 3. This was seen after a no to 2030 graphic appeared overnight at several places in Harare, including a Supreme Court, High Court, ZEC offices, and the Ministry of Justice at the Mbuya Nehanda authorities covered. Muri Zimbabwe mvura yakunaya, ndo ndikupe updates akawanda but ndichakwanisa kukupa because mvura yakunaya zvakaipisisa. Ndofunga kana muri kuinzwa pamweni pana pari kuita noise yakati one day. So mvura yakunaya ndo ndikupe updates akati one day. So tiri kuona apa ndi President Emmerson Mnangagwa. President Emmerson Mnangagwa speaking at the official opening of the Spree Out, a new restaurant located at a Geopomona Waste Management site. Tiri kuona panapa kuri kunzi kuGeopomona kwavhurwa restaurant. Ngatisangane news dzinotevera mvura yava kunaya.